بلاش
بلاش
ما
public.
بتنفعنيش.
Okay, ماشي.
Go ahead, Nancy.
Thank you. Okay.
You're welcome.
Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure for me to be here to get to speak with you guys and to learn with you. It's always a blessing as well when Anka invites me to come. It's definitely a learning experience for me as well. So I really do enjoy being here with everyone. So just to start, it was interesting, and this is something that I say all the time to everybody that I serve with. So I actually currently serve Sunday school, and I serve third grade. So we're in a rotation of first, second, third. So this year is the last of the 3 years, and then next year I'll go back to first grade. So every time we get a new batch of servants or there's a meeting, we always remind everybody that on time is late. That's, if you keep that in mind, I think it'll help you anywhere you go. So on time is late. 5 minutes before is on time. And if you're 5 minutes late, it's unacceptable. So if you keep that in mind, I think it'll help, even in life. It has nothing to do with, church service or church only. It's anywhere you go in life, whether it's college, your job. It definitely makes a difference. So just keep that as a little tidbit in your mind. So I'm just I'll share my screen. Just to share the presentation. All right. So my understanding is that this is a servants prep, pre-servants. Uncle asked me to come and speak, just about lesson preparation. So this is, it's kind of this is a 101. It's nothing too in depth. This is just, so you get an idea. I'm not sure how much experience everybody has with any of this. Also, it would help if we could be interactive, just so that, it'll help everybody. So I ask for participation if you can, that would be great. So preparing, and I just wanted to point out this quote that is on the bottom. And if you don't listen to anything else that is said tonight, just leave with this: by failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail. So always remember that if you don't prepare, you're most likely going to fail. Teaching or delivering anything on the fly, it's not for everyone, and it's not always foolproof. And that could be for anything that you do, not just delivering a lesson, but anything that you do. And we'll get into it a little bit now. So every time you are listening to a sermon, in a lesson, talking to someone, there's always an objective. There's a reason why you're doing what you're doing. Even me being here today, there's an objective. Okay, the objective for me is to deliver to you why we prepare and how to prepare. And we're going to focus more on the why. Again, once you guys advance in servants prep and, get closer to that exit, you're going to learn more in-depth ways to prepare. So to start us off, I have this picture here, and I want someone to tell me what I'm preparing for, just by looking at the slides. Feel free to just call out. Anybody?
The beach.
Vacation or beach.
Okay. And how do you guys know that? Whoever just said that, or if anybody, what tells you that I'm preparing for the beach?
The items that you have.
Okay. So coming in, you have familiarity with these items. I see somebody chatted here. Excellent. Yes, somebody chatted the beach. Thank you, Justina. You can tell, right away, you're familiar with these items. You're like, great, this is the beach. In case you didn't get it, this is the beach. That's me on the beach. All right, here's another one. What am I preparing for now?
Like
Baking.
chocolate chip baking.
Yes, I'm baking. Does anybody know what I'm baking?
Chocolate chip cookies, I think.
Yep. Good job. And these are Siami, by the way. These are not Fatari cookies, just so I don't get in trouble since we're recording and all. So once again, you knew exactly what was coming because all of the things that were set up were showing you, this is what we're doing. And the same way, obviously not everybody is going to leave here and serve Sunday school. I don't know what the plan for you is, but a lot of times we speak, in these meetings about you serving the children, and we all like to know. We all like to know what's coming. Us as adults, a lot of times you hear, oh, there's going to be a sermon at church. Who's going to speak? Or what's the topic? We want to know. And the same way, the kids also want to know. They crave that knowledge. They want to know what's coming. And we give them these bits and pieces to help them. So, what in general, why do we teach? We come to church, and, I use the word teach and serve interchangeably. I know a lot of people don't like teach because we're not teachers. We're not there to teach the kids. We're there to serve the kids, but, forgive me if I say the word out of context. It's meant in a serving way. So we teach or serve to bring God to the kids. Okay, we're bringing God to the kids. The kids are already there. A lot of times people say, well, we're bringing the kids to God. Well, great. They came. Their parents brought them. Now it's our job to bring God to them. But how are we doing that? There's a huge understanding gap that, our job is to close. They grow up and they're like, oh, we learn about Baba Yeshua. Baba Yeshua loves everybody. But then, you get into the depth of things. And our job as servants is to deliver that, to answer their questions, to be that bridge that, closes that gap. And if we're not prepared, we'll have nothing to offer them. So also keep that in mind, going through your journey. So why do we prepare? A lot of people will say, I'll just wing it. Why do I need to prepare? It's a lesson about Moses and the 10 Commandments. I know the 10 Commandments. Hold on, let me Google it. And you Google 10 Commandments and you're standing there. But at that point, anybody can do that. We don't need a person that goes through servants prep, that attends church to do any of that. Anybody can just come, Google something, and read it to the kids. We want to be able to answer questions, those higher questions, those questions that the kids, by the time they hit elementary school, their questions are pretty deep, and not necessarily deep like theology deep, but like deep as in like they're making these connections. And half the times they're like, wow, I didn't even think of that. But they're making connections because they're starting to form their opinions, and they're realizing like, oh wait, I learned about this in first grade, and now I'm in fifth grade and they're teaching me this, and wow, these two things are related. So we have to be able to answer those questions. And our job is also to live the lesson, not just give the lesson. Again, keep that in mind. We're there to live the lesson, not just give the lesson. Think about, again, I don't know what grade everybody is, but I don't know. Think about elementary school or maybe middle school or high school or wherever you recently were. Think about the best memories that you have. It's not the times where your teacher sat and lectured you about whatever topic. It's about the times that she brought that lesson to life. You saw things happening, you felt things happening, and guess what? That's what we do. We bring the lesson to life. Nobody wants to just sit there and, watch uncle or watch tant read the story of Moses. Guess what? A lot of times they can do that on their own. These kids can read. They don't need to be read to. They don't, that's not why we're there. We want to give them it's almost like a show. Like you're putting on a show and it's, bringing the lesson to life. Does anybody have any questions so far about anything, or we're good? Uncle, if you see anybody, let me know, because I don't see everybody in here. Okay, so again, like I said, we are not getting too much in depth about the preparation process because I know you guys aren't there quite yet. So we're just gonna touch on things. So these are the 4 main components when you're preparing a lesson. And obviously anytime before you prepare anything, you pray. You pray about it so that, God brings you wisdom, God shines some light on something that maybe you're not realizing. And then after that, you dig in and you begin to kind of visit everything so you are able to deliver that lesson. So you need an objective, like I said, and the objective is the objective is more so for you so that you can keep the point in your brain. This is what I'm teaching. I'm teaching the 10 commandments. It's the 10 commandments. Stay on the 10 commandments. And obviously, just because, we're going to get a little bit more into the objective, but I'll stop for there with that. After the objective, it's the actual, meat. It's the lesson, the learning, the teaching, all of the things that are happening. Then it's real life application and activity. And the activity is interchangeable. The activity doesn't necessarily have to be in the end, and we'll get into that as well. So the objective. The objective is basically the actual point of the story. It's, I guess if you want to call it the parable, Jesus used so many stories in the Bible and they weren't necessarily true, but they were there to drive. It's something that can happen, but didn't actually happen. It's how he drives the point in. And we can kind of look at the objective that way. And here I have an example for you. I know I was talking about Moses before, but here's another simple example. It's the 4 men carrying the paralytic. Okay, they're carrying their friend. The objective doesn't necessarily have to be the kids will know the story of the 4 friends carrying the paralytic, but the objective deep down could be to always work together, to have faith, to show that you're a great friend. So those are the objectives. It's very specific. It's a very specific thing that you want the kids to leave with. So the objective, once they start getting into those upper grades, I mean, even little kids, if you're teaching, even preschool, a lot of times they'll use these saint stories or the character stories to drive a point home. It's not just to teach them the story, but you want to teach them, you want to teach them about friendship, or maybe you want to teach them about honesty. So you pick whatever saint, or you don't pick, obviously you're going to be following a specific curriculum, but the objective is what the point that you're trying to send them off with is. So after the objective, and again, the objective is something more so for you to keep in the back of your mind. The next part is the lesson, and the lesson is the meat. Like, it's your time to shine. This is where everything is being delivered. And within that, you want to interact, you want to animate, you want to inspire. You're not just sitting there and reading off of a paper. You're not reading off of a phone. Again, remember, anybody can read a lesson. Anybody can give a lesson, but not everybody can live the lesson. You want to live the lesson so that the kids remember it. You don't want it to just be, and obviously not every time you deliver a lesson, it's going to be some big production, but you should always aim for that so that they remember something. Maybe they won't remember everything that you said, but they'll remember something that will spark that memory, and they will make that connection moving forward. Think back to any of the lectures or lessons that you've attended. You're not going to sit and be like, oh, my favorite lesson was really when Taunt Mary stood up there and she took that piece of paper and she just read that story of the man born blind, and she read it so nicely. Her voice was clear. Nope, that's not anybody's dream. Like, nobody ever says that. I hope Taunt Mary's not serving at your church. I'm not talking about anybody in specific, obviously, but listen, we all fall into that rut. I'm sure, I'm here saying this, and a lot of times we end up just, you get to the point that you just want to say things, but that's not why, why we do this. We want to be there. Think about it, and it really should be. You should be giving it your all every single time that you're there delivering that lesson. So, while you're delivering the lesson, you want to use stories, you want to give examples, you want to do questions, you want to do quick surveys. And honestly, think about your schooling days now, like how interactive teachers are and what the things they do. Those are the things that you want to bring into Sunday school. That's not a bad thing. I think a big problem is a lot of times servants say, well, I'm not a teacher, but we're so disconnected from our elementary school days that we actually forget all of the things. If I bring my daughter in here, she could sit here and rattle all the fun things that she does. But by the time she's in our shoes, she can't remember. She doesn't remember how to do any of those things or what those things, the fun things are. So, maybe if you're, still in school right now, your teacher does an awesome activity, write it down, make a journal, write these activities down, because it really is golden. And obviously there's so many things online, so many resources that you can use, and you don't need to be a teacher, and you don't need to have all this experience to be able to come up with something that's exciting for the kids. Google knows everything. Google is magic. Google has everything now. So it really is disheartening to hear people say, well, I'm not creative. I can't really think of anything. So I'm sure you could come up with something. And again, remember, anybody could read the story, but we're not here to read stories to kids. The next part, after the lesson, and most of the time you're spending most of the chunk on the actual lesson part. That's like when you're delivering the story, you're doing all of these little things, questioning here and there. That's the meat of it. The application is something that is probably lacking a lot of times. The application is what you actually want the kids to go home with, how they apply it to their lives. So, great. The story of the four men carrying the paralytic, the kid could just sit there and say, well, I mean, that's never going to happen to me. I'm never going to have to carry my friend anywhere. I am not paralyzed. What does this have to do with me? But you want them to go home with a point, like how they can apply it to their lives. And, 97% of the time, this is something that's lacking, because it comes at the end, you say the lesson and you're done and you're like, okay, like, let's wrap this up. Like, let's say the verse and just call it a day. But you don't go back and wrap everything up. And the application.
I'm there. I'm at it. But I can still play.
We're good? Are we get to continue? Okay.
Yeah, we are.
Okay. Sorry. So sorry, I lost my train of thought. Yeah, so the application part is really what you want them to go home with, to be able to apply to their own lives. And this is really how they're going to make that connection with God. Not just, I learned the story of the paralytic man, it's really great. That's it. But how are we going to apply that to our life? So, this is a specific example that I came up with. So if the story is the 4 men carrying the paralytic, the application that you want them to be able to come up with. And obviously, a lot of this has to do with what grade level it is and how connected the kids are. But the hope is that by the end of the lesson, you want them to realize that when someone needs help, we should help them, or we should always cooperate with others to get better results. That's the application. That's really the take-home message from this lesson, not just, find a person that's paralyzed and carry them around. Obviously, that would not be a connection that they're making with this lesson. Any questions, or are we okay? Good. Okay, so the activity. I feel like the activity a lot of times is, also falls through the cracks, because this is where people are like, well, I'm not creative. I can't come up with an activity. And again, if you look at it as all one big piece, let's bring it to life. Let's use an objective. The activity is something that should and can be related to the objective. It doesn't have to be, but it really drives the point home when everything is tied together. So, I have my objective. Let's say, for that story, it's to work together. Then you're not necessarily then looking up activities that have to do, with the paralytic man, but then you're looking up activities to drive home the point of working together. And obviously that opens up so many more doors. Like, it's not just, you're not Googling religious activities for the 4 friends carrying the paralyzed man. But at that point, you're able to come up with so many more things. So if you think about the activity in terms of the objective, it makes things a lot easier sometimes, or a lot of times. Another thing is that a lot of people say, well, the activity has to be in the end. There's nothing in any book or anywhere that says the activity has to be in the end. The activity could be in the beginning. You could do something in the beginning of class. Actually, that would be a great way to, catch their attention right from the beginning. It could be in the middle. You stop and do something, and then you continue the lesson. Actually, that's also another way to break things up. Or it can be at the end. Or it could be a multi-step activity where you're doing a part in the beginning, in the middle, and the end. Also, we fall into a rut of movies. My activity this week is going to be a movie. And then next week, it's a movie. And then again, it's a movie. And then it becomes this thing that it's no longer exciting for the kids. And movie clips are great, don't get me wrong. And I say clips because that's why they're great. You teach a lesson for 20 minutes and then they sit and watch a movie for half an hour. It's highly likely that whole movie probably has nothing to do with the lesson that you taught. And they don't need to rewatch the whole movie of the lesson that you just taught. That's the same thing twice. So movie clips are a great thing to use if you integrate them the right way. So a perfect example of using a movie clip, I'll tell you. A lot of times in the curriculums, you'll find a series, or maybe not a series. We just recently started following the new curriculum, and we started in 3rd grade. So the curriculum builds. So for the curriculum to build, that means in 1st grade, they should have started at something, and they may not necessarily have. So what we started doing is, I'm going to use Moses just because it's a perfect example of a series. Let's say the lesson that we're at is the 10 Commandments. He's receiving the 10 Commandments, but they don't have a background knowledge of things. So that would be a great time to integrate a movie clip. Today, boys and girls, we are going to talk about Moses receiving the 10 Commandments. Or maybe it's, let's stick with the 10 Commandments, because then at the 10 Commandments, they don't even know about the plagues. They don't know any of that stuff. And obviously, you're not going to sit there teaching every single bit, but you also have to, and this is a little bit, further down the line, something that you'll learn, you need to make sure that they have the knowledge right now, the prerequisite knowledge, think of it like a prerequisite course, or like something in math, let's say a math skill. In order to multiply, you have to be able to add. I can't come in here and teach you multiplication and say, it's like adding the same number and over, but you have no idea how to add. So in order for me to teach you multiplication, I first have to teach you how to add. It's kind of like that. Obviously a little bit more surface, but if they don't know who Moses is, then guess what? That would be a great time to say, well, boys and girls, we're going to watch a little clip about Moses. Moses was this great prophet, and he, this is his background story. And you show little clips of it, to gain, first of all, that, that's going to really like grab their attention. And it's almost like an extension of the lesson that you're giving, because you're not double dipping anything. You're doing things for a reason. It's a very good reason. I need to do this in order to teach them this. So, that's a great way to integrate movie clips and things like that. But don't think that just having a movie at the end is an activity, because it's not. They're not doing anything. But they are really a great resource. So, here I have here an example, sticking with the 4 men carrying the paralytic. An activity could be, because we said focusing on working together, you give the kids a bunch of popsicle sticks and you ask them to build a structure. And the structure has to hold the ball and you give them no directions, basically. So the point of that is that you're showing them, teamwork. And anybody could look at that and say, well, what do popsicle sticks have to do with the paralytic? Absolutely nothing. It doesn't. It does not have to do anything with the name of the lesson. And that's what I'm trying to tell you guys. Let's look at the objective and really, fine tune it. Look at it with like such a close eye that we are getting down to the nitty gritty and doing something meaningful. Instead of, my Sunday school teacher told me about the 4 friends, and then we watched the movie of it. Chances are, and a lot of times, anytime you play a movie, the kids raise their hand and say, I saw this, I have the whole series, I've seen every single episode. So it's just another thing that they're watching. But them building a structure or something like this, and again, minimal planning. Obviously it requires planning, because you would have to have the popsicle sticks, but you don't physically have to do anything. All you have to do is go get a box of popsicle sticks. Or it could be a box of pencils. It could be anything, paper clips, anything that you have. But it's not a last minute thing. You can't do this when you're on the way to church, or navigating from an outing that you went to. Oh, what activity can I come up with? It requires you to think a little and to plan ahead. And that's also very, very important. Does anybody have, I know this was a lot at once, does anybody have any questions about the activities or anything like that? So I know I spoke a lot at once. It's a very big topic, and once you guys are ready to actually be able to plan a lesson and prepare a lesson, there are more details and things that we get into, the certain components that you should have, and how to break down the lesson. But this was just, a huge overview. And I want you to remember, if you don't prepare, if you fail to prepare, then you're really preparing to fail, that you're not going to deliver anything successfully. The lesson is not going to be successful, and the kids are not going to benefit. So this was everything in a nutshell. I know, sorry, I spoke too fast. I didn't want to run out of time. But if anybody has any questions or anything that they want to know more about,